Hi, I'm Mark Latender, and today in VTA, I'm going to show you how to use the VTA Requirement Due Date Calculator. Before we begin, I'd like to note that there are a couple YouTube videos that you should probably watch before this one. They cover the basics on due date calculation, such as where they're used in the system, the VTA calculation process, using the Student Status Report CSV for your data source, and the 4 calculation date parts, those being the requirement effective date, the student's assignment date plus the grace period, any existing exemption records, and how often it's required to be done from the last time it was completed. There's also a video specifically about the report CSV, including how to interpret the following dates, and those being the null values. When you see 12/30/1899 12 a.m., that's going to represent that that date is not existing. Also, if you're looking at exemption records and you see a 1/1/2500 date, that is going to represent a permanent exemption. So when you look at the record, you're not going to see a date there, meaning they are permanently exempt. It never expires. It also talks about how to update the CSV values to be more user-friendly and the fields that you care about for the due date calculation. So to access the requirement due date calculator, you're going to want to open up the VTA online help system by clicking the question mark next to your sign out. And once you have the full online help system open, you're going to navigate to Administrator, Additional Administrator Features, Requirements, and you'll see Due Date Calculation. If you scroll all the way to the bottom of that page, you'll see the Due Date Calculator and there'll be a link to download that file. Once you open the Requirement Due Date Calculator, you'll have a place to put all of the data relevant to the requirement. So you'll see an option to enter in the student exemption expiration date. If it's a team requirement, you can enter in the team assignment date. If it's a job title requirement, you'll have a place to enter the job title date. If the student has training history, you could put in their last completion date. If it's a team or job title requirement, you're going to enter in the requirement effective date. If it's an individual requirement, you'll enter the requirement's assignment date. You can enter in the requirement's frequency. If you're setting a due month, you'll select it on the drop-down list. And finally, you'll enter in the grace period days. With all the information that you put in here, you'll see a calculated due date at the bottom. But there are a few things to watch out for. The first thing to watch out for is to be sure that you're only entering in either a team assignment date, if it's a team requirement, or the student's job title date, if it's a job title requirement. If you enter a value in both fields, you'll see an error appear that's going to say only enter in one or the other, but not both. The second thing to watch out for is if you enter in a completion date for the student, and the requirement is set with a frequency of 0, that means it's a one-time requirement. They have history, they don't need to do anything else, so they're not due. And you'll see a message at the bottom appear that tells you that the requirement is not due because of the value that you put into cell B5. And the final thing to watch out for is using an incorrect frequency months when trying to set a due month. When using a due month, it requires that you use a multiple of 12. If you happen to enter in a frequency that is not a multiple of 12 and you also select a due month, you'll see an error message letting you know that it's incorrect and you should make the correction. Knowing all that, let's play the due dating game. This is where we're going to use the requirement due date calculator and look at a real-life example of the requirement setup, looking at their training history and their student exemption data. We want to find the date that is the requirement's due date. Using the calculator, we're going to want to enter in the dates that we know according to the facts that we have. The first thing we know is that the student attended the course on February 1st, 2019. If I bring up the calculator, they have completion on February 1st, 2019. The second thing we know is that they were assigned to the team on January 1st, 2017. That means they have a team assignment date of 1/1/17. We know that the course was added to the team on December 1st, 2019. It needs to be done annually by everybody on that team. So that's going to give us the frequency of 12. And there is no grace period for the requirement. So we'll leave that as 0. If we compared everything, put it on a timeline, we can see that the calculated due date is 2/1/2020. And that is going to be their last attendance date plus the frequency. That's what caused their due date to appear as it does. If we look at the same information on a timeline, we know that there's no exemption. So there is no exemption expiration date. We know that they were assigned and there was no grace period, so their assignment date plus the grace period is 1/1/17. The requirement was made effective on 2/1/19, and when you add in the completion date plus the frequency, that gives us 2/1/2020. So when each part was compared, and then we look at which one is latest, the 2/1/2020 date is going to be the requirement due date. And that's how you could use the requirement due date calculator to determine what would a due date be given parameters that you know. Thanks for watching.